It was just after 8 o'clock on a warm summer evening in Ravenwood, a quiet suburban town where people rarely locked their doors and neighbors waved at each other across freshly mowed lawns. Linda Parker stood by her front window, arms crossed, watching the Harper house across the street. Something wasn't right. "Tom," she called out to her husband, who was half asleep in his recliner. "Look at this. The front door's wide open. The lights are on. It's been like that for over an hour." Tom groaned and pushed himself up. "Maybe Mike just forgot. You know how scatterbrained he gets after work." Linda shook her head firmly. "No. Emily is always careful. And the kids, Grace and Ethan, they'd never leave the door open like that. I'm telling you, something's wrong." They crossed the street together, the sound of cicadas filling the heavy evening air. The Harper's house loomed quietly, porch light glowing like a watchful eye. Linda hesitated before stepping onto the porch. "Hello?" she called. "Emily? Mike? Kids?" No answer. Tom pushed the door gently. It creaked open, revealing the dimly lit hallway inside. The smell of half-eaten dinner wafted toward them. They stepped cautiously inside. The dining room table was set for 4. Plates of food sat abandoned, forks half-raised as if everyone had simply stood up and walked away mid-bite. A glass of milk had tipped over, dripping onto the hardwood floor. Linda's heart began to race. "Oh my God." Tom checked the living room. The television was still on, playing a muted family sitcom. Upstairs, faint light spilled from the hallway. But the house was silent, eerily silent. "Linda, we should call the police," Tom whispered. She nodded quickly, fumbling for her phone. Her fingers trembled as she dialed. Minutes later, the wail of sirens broke the stillness of Ravenwood's suburban calm. 2 patrol cars pulled up, red and blue lights flickering against the neat row of houses. Officer Daniels, young and nervous, stepped inside first. His radio crackled as he called for backup. "House is clear so far. No residents in sight. Dinner on the table. Signs of sudden departure." Detective Sarah Mitchell arrived shortly after, her heels clicking sharply against the driveway. She was lean, sharp-eyed, and carried herself with the kind of quiet authority that made people step aside without thinking. Her partner, Detective Ryan Cole, followed, coffee in hand, looking less than enthusiastic about being called out at this hour. "What do we have?" Sarah asked, scanning the living room. "Neighbors report open door, lights on, no contact with the family since this afternoon," Officer Daniels explained. Sarah studied the dining table, the untouched food. She crouched, brushing her gloved fingers near the spilled milk. Still fresh. They didn't leave long ago. Ryan looked around. No signs of forced entry. No struggle, at least not here. Maybe they just left? Sarah shook her head slowly, her gaze drifting toward the staircase. Families don't just vanish in the middle of dinner. She stood, her voice steady, but her eyes narrowed in suspicion. Something happened here. Something planned. And in the quiet of the Harper house, with the lights still burning and food slowly growing cold, Ravenwood's first true mystery in decades had begun. Detective Sarah Mitchell pulled on a pair of gloves as she moved deeper into the Harper residence. The house felt wrong, too still, as though it were holding its breath. Ryan Cole followed behind her, muttering, "Looks like they just stepped out. Maybe they had some kind of emergency." Sarah shot him a look. With the TV on, food on the table, and the front door wide open? That's no emergency. That's deliberate. They moved through the kitchen. Plates were scattered in the sink, a cutting board still holding a half-sliced tomato. The refrigerator hummed quietly, door left slightly ajar. Sarah closed it gently. No valuables missing. No sign of a robbery. Upstairs, the hallway light buzzed faintly. The detectives split up. Sarah entered Grace's room, Ryan went into Ethan's. Grace's bedroom looked like any teenager's, posters of bands on the walls, makeup scattered across the desk, clothes piled on a chair. But Sarah's eyes were drawn to the notebook on the nightstand. A diary. She opened it carefully, scanning the last entry written in messy handwriting. Dad's been acting strange again. Mom told me not to ask questions. I don't like the way he looks at the woods behind the house. It feels like he knows something we don't. Sarah frowned. She slipped the notebook into an evidence bag. Meanwhile, Ryan bent down in Ethan's room. Toys and action figures were scattered on the floor, but near the bed he spotted a small digital recorder. He pressed play. A child's voice filled the silence. Ethan's. Testing, 1, 2. Okay. Today, Mom was crying in the kitchen. She told Dad it wasn't safe anymore. I don't know what she meant. She told me not to tell Grace. But I'm recording it anyway. Ryan looked at the device with raised eyebrows. He stepped into the hall just as Sarah emerged with the diary. Find anything? She asked. Yeah, Ryan said, holding up the recorder. Looks like the kid overheard something. Mom thought they were in danger. They exchanged a glance, both detectives realizing this was no simple disappearance. Downstairs, Officer Daniels called out. Detectives. You'll want to see this. They hurried back to the living room. Daniels stood near the back door leading to the yard. The lock was intact, but on the glass there was a faint, smudged handprint, too large to be a child's, pressed from the outside, not the inside. Sarah leaned closer. Gloves didn't catch everything. Whoever was here, they were watching. Ryan muttered, so maybe the family didn't just vanish. Maybe they were taken. Sarah straightened, her jaw tight. No. Not taken. This was planned. Someone wanted them gone. And as the night settled over Ravenwood, the Harper house whispered secrets through its silent walls, secrets that Sarah intended to uncover, piece by piece. By morning, the Harper residence was surrounded by yellow tape, drawing curious eyes from nearly every house on Willow Lane. Ravenwood wasn't used to police cars parked on its quiet streets. Detective Sarah Mitchell leaned against her unmarked sedan, sipping black coffee as she scanned the neighborhood. People were whispering in driveways, watching the crime scene with a mixture of fear and fascination. Small towns, Ryan Cole muttered beside her. Word travels faster than the damn radio. Sarah ignored the comment. Her eyes fixed on the Parkers' house across the street, the neighbors who had made the 911 call. Linda Parker was already outside, wringing her hands nervously as if she had been rehearsing what to say. Her husband Tom stood behind her, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Sarah approached with calm authority. Mr. and Mrs. Parker, thank you for speaking with us. We'll just need to go over a few details. Linda jumped in immediately. Of course, Detective. I told the officer everything last night. The door was wide open, lights on, food on the table. I knew something was wrong. I always notice these things. Sarah raised an eyebrow. You always notice? Linda hesitated, realizing how it sounded. I mean, I look after the street. I keep an eye out. Tom spoke up, his voice lower, steadier. We didn't see or hear anything unusual before yesterday evening. The Harpers seemed fine to me. Sarah's gaze lingered on him. And when was the last time you actually spoke with them? Tom rubbed the back of his neck. Couple days ago. Mike was mowing the lawn. We talked about the weather. Linda cut in sharply. That was last week, Tom. Don't you remember? Tom's jaw tightened. No, I'm pretty sure it was just a couple days ago. Sarah caught the flicker of tension between them. Conflicting timelines. Not a good look. Ryan, standing off to the side, noted their body language. He spoke casually, but his words carried weight. So you're telling us you noticed their door open for an hour before calling it in? Why wait so long? Linda bristled. I didn't wait. I was making sure I wasn't overreacting. Tom thought I was being paranoid. Tom shifted uncomfortably, staring down at the porch. Sarah let the silence stretch, watching them both sweat. Then she finally said, "We'll need a formal statement from both of you. Please don't leave town." As the detectives walked back toward the Harper house, Ryan muttered under his breath, "They're hiding something. You can see it all over their faces." Sarah nodded, but her eyes were distant, calculating. Maybe. Or maybe they just know more about the Harpers than they're willing to admit. Behind them, Linda and Tom Parker watched nervously from their porch, two neighbors who had stumbled into the heart of a mystery they couldn't easily escape. And for Sarah Mitchell, the feeling only grew stronger. Ravenwood's perfect little neighborhood was beginning to show its cracks. Detective Sarah Mitchell sat in the precinct's briefing room, a stack of folders spread across the table. The night had been long, and she hadn't slept, but her mind was razor-sharp. "All right," she said, addressing the small team gathered around. "What do we actually know about the Harpers?" Officer Daniels read from his notes. Michael Harper, 42, works in IT for a mid-sized software company in Chicago. No criminal record. Emily Harper, 39, teaches at Ravenwood Middle School. Known in the community, well-liked. Kids, Grace, 14, student, and Ethan, 9. Nothing unusual at first glance. Sarah tapped her pen against the table. "That's what the surface says. Dig deeper." Ryan entered with 2 fresh files, dropping them in front of her. "I made some calls. Turns out, Michael was under financial pressure. He took out a second mortgage on the house last year. Credit card debt piling up. Looks like he was living beyond his means." Sarah flipped through the documents, eyes narrowing. "Interesting. And Emily?" Ryan hesitated, then opened the second file. "This one's trickier. Emily may not have been as squeaky clean as people thought. She had regular contact with one of her former students, Jake Turner, 29. Emails, phone records. Not illegal, but unusual." Sarah arched an eyebrow. "How unusual?" "Enough that the school principal noticed and gave her a warning last spring. They claimed it was about tutoring, but the volume of communication doesn't add up." Sarah sat back in her chair, processing. "So we've got a father drowning in debt, and a mother hiding a questionable connection. Not exactly the picture-perfect family people want us to believe." She rose and began pacing. The diary and the recorder point to tension inside the house. Grace was suspicious of her father. Ethan overheard Emily saying it wasn't safe. That means both parents may have been keeping secrets from each other. And from their kids. Ryan added, "And don't forget the neighbors. The Parkers aren't exactly consistent with their timeline. Either they're lying, or they're scared." Sarah stopped pacing, her mind racing. Which means, she turned to the team. The disappearance wasn't random. Whoever orchestrated this knew the Harpers' weaknesses, and used them. The room fell silent. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID. "The forensic lab." She answered. "Mitchell." The voice on the other end was calm, clinical. "Detective, we processed the handprint from the Harper's back door. It's partial, but there's enough to rule out the family and neighbors. Whoever it belongs to, he's not in the system. No match." Sarah's grip tightened on the phone. "So we have a ghost?" "Not exactly," the tech replied. "One more thing, you might want to check the woods behind the house. That handprint had traces of soil and pine resin. Whoever left it came from the forest." Sarah hung up slowly, her mind connecting the threads: debt, secrets, lies, and now an unknown figure watching from the trees. She looked at Ryan. "We're not dealing with a disappearance. We're dealing with someone who wanted the Harpers erased." Ryan exhaled. "And the question is, why?" The woods behind the Harper house stretched for miles, dense and quiet, a natural barrier between Ravenwood and the next town over. The locals treated it like a backdrop, a place kids dared each other to enter at night, but rarely did. Detective Sarah Mitchell and Ryan Cole stood at the edge of the tree line the next morning, crime scene tape fluttering lightly in the breeze. "Lab says soil and resin," Sarah murmured, staring into the shadowed grove. "If our mystery guest left a handprint, this is where he came from." Ryan adjusted his jacket. "Great. A forest full of places to hide and nothing but deer and raccoons for company." They stepped into the woods, accompanied by Officer Daniels and a pair of search dogs. The air grew cooler under the thick canopy, sounds of the suburb fading until only the crunch of leaves and distant bird calls remained. Sarah scanned the ground carefully. Years of investigative instinct told her to look for the unnatural among the natural. And soon, she found it. "Over here," she called. The others gathered as she pointed at a patch of disturbed earth. A shallow impression, boot-shaped, pressed into the soil. Too fresh to be old. Ryan crouched. Size 11, maybe 12. Heavy tread. Not exactly a hiker's boot. More like work boots. Daniels noted it down. The dogs began to bark, pulling their handler deeper into the woods. They followed until the path opened to a small clearing. At its center stood a weathered hunting blind, an elevated wooden structure camouflaged with branches and leaves. Sarah's pulse quickened. She climbed the ladder, each step groaning under her weight, until she reached the platform. Inside, the air smelled of stale cigarettes and damp wood. A pair of binoculars sat on the ledge, aimed directly at the Harper house through a narrow slit in the wall. Next to them lay an empty thermos, fast food wrappers, and a pack of matches. This wasn't just a hiding spot, Sarah whispered. Someone's been watching them. For days. Maybe weeks. Ryan called up from below. "Anything useful?" Sarah picked up the binoculars. The edges were smudged with fingerprints, hopefully usable ones. Beneath the seat, she found something else, a scrap of paper folded twice. She opened it carefully. A rough sketch of the Harper house stared back at her, complete with markings around the windows and doors. And on the bottom, in scrawled handwriting, one word stood out. "Tonight." Her stomach tightened. She climbed down, handing the paper to Ryan. "Looks like we're not just dealing with a stalker," he said grimly. "This was premeditated." Sarah looked back at the Harper house through the trees. The walls seemed smaller now, more vulnerable, like prey under a hunter's gaze. "Whoever did this," she said, voice cold and steady, "was waiting for the right moment." And on that night, they struck. The forest stood silent around them, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching, from deeper in the woods, beyond the reach of their eyes. Jake Turner sat stiffly in the interrogation room, hands clenched on the table. His dark hair was tousled, eyes darting nervously between the two detectives. Detective Sarah Mitchell opened her notebook. "Jake Turner, thank you for coming in. We need to talk about your relationship with Emily Harper." Jake swallowed hard. It's nothing. Just tutoring. That's all." Ryan Cole leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Tutoring? You were messaging her constantly. Late nights. Weekends. Enough to raise concerns at the school." Jake ran a hand down his face. I was helping her daughter, Grace. She was struggling in math. I swear, that's all it was." Sarah studied him. "Your emails paint a different picture. You were planning meetings away from the school, sometimes at Emily's house. Care to explain?" Jake hesitated, then exhaled sharply. She asked me to come over a few times. She seemed worried. Said things weren't right at home. She wanted someone to notice, someone to watch." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Watch? Are you saying Emily asked you to spy on her own family?" Jake looked down. "I didn't want to. I didn't know what to do. But she trusted me. And then, a few days ago, she told me, something big was going to happen. That the family had to be careful." Sarah's pen paused above the notebook. "Careful from whom?" Jake shook his head. I don't know. She never said. And then, the night they disappeared, I got a message. Tonight is the night. Don't interfere. I didn't go over. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Ryan muttered, convenient timing, isn't it? Sarah leaned forward, voice sharp. Jake, we need the truth. Did you have anything to do with their disappearance? No. Jake's voice cracked. I swear. I cared about them, okay? I didn't hurt them. I wouldn't. Sarah exchanged a look with Ryan. He shrugged slightly. There was honesty in Jake's fear, but also an undeniable shadow of secrecy. We'll verify your alibi, Sarah said. And if you're telling the truth, Jake, you're going to help us. Every detail you know about Emily, Michael, anything unusual in the last few weeks. Jake nodded, relief flooding his features. I'll tell you everything. Please, find them. I don't want anyone hurt. Sarah closed her notebook, eyes hardening. We will. But first, we need to see the world through the Harper's eyes. And someone didn't want anyone seeing anything at all. Ravenwood slept uneasily that night. Even the streetlights seemed dimmer, as if the town itself sensed the looming darkness. Detective Sarah Mitchell drove slowly past Willow Lane, eyes scanning every window of the Harper house. Ryan Cole rode shotgun, coffee in hand but alert. Do you feel it? Ryan muttered. Like someone's watching? Sarah didn't answer. Her grip on the steering wheel was tight. They're still out there. Whoever took the Harpers, or forced them to leave, could be anywhere. Watching. Waiting. Back at the precinct, Officer Daniels had pulled together files on other residents who might have grievances against the Harpers. Here's something, he said, handing Sarah a folder. Mark Reynolds. Owns a construction company. Had a dispute with Michael over a delayed payment. Known for intimidation. And Linda Parker's husband, Tom, there are rumors he had a run-in with Emily last year over a neighborhood dispute. Nothing criminal, but suspicious timing. Sarah flipped through the pages. So now we have a list: financially pressured Michael, mysterious emails with Jake, tense neighbors, and a construction guy with a grudge. Anyone could have wanted them out of the picture. Ryan leaned back, voice low. Or all of them together. A perfect storm. Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop looking. You're in danger. Tonight. Her pulse quickened. Ryan, we've got a live threat. Someone's trying to intimidate us. Ryan frowned. Or taunt us. Either way, we can't ignore it. They decided to revisit the Harper house under the cover of night. Yellow tape and police cars had been removed for the evening, leaving the house eerily open and dark. Inside, the air was colder than before, heavy with the scent of abandonment. Sarah moved through the living room, flashlight in hand. Shadows stretched across the walls, playing tricks on the eyes. Check the back door, Ryan whispered. The door was closed, but scratches along the wood suggested recent attempts to tamper. Sarah knelt, examining them carefully. Someone's been back here tonight. A sudden noise from the kitchen made them freeze. A chair scraped against the floor. Heartbeats pounding, they drew their weapons and entered, but found nothing. Ghosts, Ryan muttered. Or someone trying to scare us off. Sarah shook her head. No. Someone knows exactly what they're doing. And if we don't act fast, the Harpers may never be found. Outside, a figure watched from the shadows, just beyond the tree line. Not a neighbor, not Jake, not even the construction guy, someone new. Someone patient. Someone who had planned this disappearance from the very beginning. The night held its breath, and Ravenwood slept fitfully, unaware that a predator lingered among them, studying every move of those who dared seek the truth. Early morning fog hung over Ravenwood, thick and gray, making the familiar streets of Willow Lane look strange and distant. Detective Sarah Mitchell and Ryan Cole were already in the Harpers' backyard, walking cautiously toward the forest edge. The handprint, the binoculars, maybe the family didn't just disappear, Sarah murmured. Maybe someone forced them deeper into the woods. They moved silently, flashlights cutting through the mist. Officer Daniels followed, carrying a camera to document anything unusual. About half a mile in, Sarah's light caught a faint trail in the underbrush, broken branches, crushed leaves, footprints smaller than the boot marks they had found earlier. "Looks like someone led them here," Ryan whispered. The path ended at a clearing. Nestled between two thick oaks was a small, makeshift shelter, branches woven into walls, tarpaulin covering the roof. Smoke curled from a tiny chimney. Sarah approached carefully. Could be their hiding place, or a trap. Inside, they found signs of recent occupancy. A few plates, a half-burned candle, and a small backpack containing Grace's notebook, Ethan's digital recorder, and Michael's wallet. No money had been taken. Sarah picked up the recorder. "Let's see if there's anything we missed." She pressed play. Ethan's voice came through, soft but frightened. "If anyone finds this, we're in the woods. Someone is after us. Dad says don't panic. Mom keeps saying it's complicated. Grace is scared, but we're sticking together." Ryan exchanged a grim look with Sarah. So they were here, hiding. But for how long? And why did they leave? Sarah's eyes scanned the shelter. On a makeshift table, she spotted a folded piece of paper. Opening it, she found a crude map of the forest with markings around certain trees and a small X near a stream. Written in Emily's handwriting. "Don't trust anyone. Move if they find us. Tonight." "This matches the message from the binoculars hideout," Sarah said, her voice low. They were trying to protect themselves, but someone was always one step ahead. Outside, a branch snapped. Sarah froze, sweeping her flashlight across the trees. Shadows moved. Someone was watching. "Daniels, cover the exit," Sarah ordered. "Ryan, stay close." The forest held its breath, the mist curling around the trees like a living thing. Somewhere out there, the predator who orchestrated the Harper disappearance was still lurking, calculating the next move. And for Sarah and Ryan, the realization hit hard. Finding the Harpers alive was no longer just a hope, it was a race against time. The fog in Ravenwood's forest was heavier now, curling around tree trunks like ghostly fingers. Sarah Mitchell and Ryan Cole advanced cautiously toward the Harper shelter, senses on high alert. "Something's off," Ryan whispered, scanning the mist. "Feels like we're walking into a trap." Sarah's flashlight flicked across a dark figure moving silently among the trees. "I see him," she said, hand instinctively on her sidearm. The figure froze, then bolted deeper into the forest. "Stop!" Ryan shouted, but the shadow was gone in an instant, melting into the mist. Sarah and Ryan exchanged a look. "He's watching us," she said. "The same one who's been following the Harpers." They continued toward the shelter. Broken branches crunched underfoot, and faint footprints marked the path. Near the clearing, Sarah froze. There were scuff marks in the dirt indicating a struggle. "Looks recent," she said, crouching. "Someone fought here." Ryan pointed to the ground. "Cloth. Maybe a piece of clothing ripped during the scuffle." Sarah carefully picked it up. Dark fabric, torn along the edge. Could belong to the predator, or one of the Harpers. A sudden rustle made them spin. Out of the shadows stepped a man, face partially obscured by a hood. His eyes gleamed in the flashlight beam. "Detectives," he said, voice low and calm. "You shouldn't have come here." Sarah held her weapon steady. "Who are you? Where are the Harpers?" The man smirked, tilting his head. "They're closer than you think. But every move you make, they move one step ahead. Leave now, or you'll be the next to vanish." Ryan stepped forward. "We're not leaving until we find them." "Who are you working for?" The figure laughed softly. I work for no one, except my plan. The Harpers are pieces on a board. And you're trying to play chess with a master you can't see. Before Sarah could react, he bolted into the woods, leaving behind a faint trail of footprints leading toward the river. Sarah and Ryan exchanged a tense glance. "We're running out of time," she muttered. "He knows we're close. And if we're not fast, the Harpers might not survive the night." Daniels arrived at the clearing, carrying backup and evidence bags. "Detectives, what happened?" Sarah pointed toward the forest. "We just met him. He's fast, prepared, and dangerous. But he left something behind." She bent down, examining the ground. "And if we follow these tracks, we might finally catch a glimpse of who orchestrated all of this." The mist seemed to thicken around them, a silent witness to the chase that was about to begin. Ravenwood's forest had turned into a labyrinth of fear, shadows, and deadly secrets. The footprints led deeper into Ravenwood's forest, twisting between moss-covered trees and over-tangled roots. Sarah Mitchell and Ryan Cole moved carefully, flashlights cutting through the dense fog. "He's fast," Ryan whispered. "And he knows this forest better than we do." Sarah didn't answer, focusing on the tracks. Broken twigs, scuffed earth, and faint drops of blood told her that the predator wasn't invincible. He'd been in a struggle, possibly with the Harpers. Suddenly, Ryan halted. "Look." On the ground lay a torn piece of clothing, Emily Harper's scarf. Beside it, a crumpled note, smeared with dirt. "Do not follow. They are mine. Tonight ends everything." Sarah bagged the evidence carefully. "He's taunting us. But he left breadcrumbs. We follow them, we might save them." The forest grew darker, shadows lengthening. A sudden snapping of branches ahead made them freeze. From the mist emerged a small clearing. There, partially hidden behind a tree, was a backpack filled with supplies, bottled water, a first aid kit, and Grace's diary. Ryan picked up the diary, flipping through it quickly. They were planning to escape on their own. They knew someone was after them. This is their trail." Sarah nodded. "He underestimated them. Or he wanted them to lead us here. Either way, it's a chance we can't waste." They pressed on, following the faint trail toward a small river. The sound of rushing water mingled with the tension in the air. The predator's footprints disappeared near a fallen log bridge, as if he had vanished into the mist. Ryan muttered, "This is getting ridiculous. He can't just disappear." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "He can. And he will, if we don't act smart. But notice this, he left too many clues. He wants someone to follow, to see the plan unfold. And now we have a choice. We either stay hidden and risk losing the Harpers forever, or we take the path he's left and confront him." Daniels, catching up behind them, pointed toward the far bank. "There. Footprints on the opposite shore. Someone crossed the river recently." Sarah's heart raced. "That's them. Or him. Either way, we're close. Time to see whose plan this really is." As the fog thickened, the detectives realized the predator's game was only beginning, and the next move could mean life or death for the Harpers. The river stretched before them, murky water rushing over rocks. Sarah Mitchell crouched at the edge, peering through the fog. Across the river, footprints disappeared into the underbrush. "He's crossed here recently," Ryan whispered, scanning the opposite bank. "We don't know how far ahead he is, or if he's expecting us." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "We have to be careful. The Harpers could be nearby, or they could be a lure." They carefully made their way along the riverbank, flashlights cutting through the mist. The sound of snapping branches made Sarah freeze. "Over there." Ryan hissed, pointing. A shadow moved swiftly along the trees. The predator, a tall man in a hooded jacket, stood on a fallen log bridging the river. He held a knife in one hand, a dark expression etched on his face. Sarah drew her weapon. "Freeze. Police." The man's lips curled into a cold smile. Detectives. Right on time. I wondered when you'd catch up. Ryan stepped forward, cautiously. Where are the Harpers? What have you done to them? The man tilted his head. They're alive, for now. But they were never meant to escape. Every move, every hiding spot. I controlled it all. Tonight was meant to be the end, but you're complicating my plan. Sarah's mind raced. You're insane. You think threatening them will solve anything? He laughed softly. Not think. No. The Harpers, they owed me. Michael's debts, Emily's lies, the way they flaunted their little perfect lives. I'm just balancing the scales. Before Sarah could respond, he lunged, knife flashing. Ryan tackled him to the ground, struggling as the man fought fiercely. Shots rang out. Daniels had arrived with backup. The predator froze, then dropped the knife. Stand down. Daniels yelled. The man raised his hands, chest heaving. You don't understand. It was never personal, it was necessary. Sarah cuffed him, voice icy. Necessary to ruin a family? Necessary to stalk and threaten innocent people? You'll answer for this. As they secured him, Sarah's gaze drifted to the opposite bank. Tracks led further into the forest. The Harpers, they're still out there. And if he's caught, it's our only chance to find them alive. Ryan nodded grimly. Then let's finish this before it's too late. The fog hung heavy, hiding secrets in every shadow. But one thing was clear, the predator's plan had cracks, and Sarah was determined to exploit them. The fog thinned slightly as Sarah Mitchell and Ryan Cole pressed deeper into the forest, following the faint tracks the predator had left behind. Every step heightened the tension, every rustle of leaves set their nerves on edge. Over here, Ryan whispered, pointing to a small hollow behind a dense thicket. Inside, the Harper family huddled together. Emily's face was pale, Grace clutched her diary, and Ethan's small hands trembled. Michael's arm was around them, protective but exhausted. Sarah rushed forward. Everyone's okay. You're safe now. Michael looked up, disbelief etched across his face. Detectives, you found us? Always, Sarah said firmly. We got him. The man behind this, you're free. Emily hugged her children tightly, tears streaking her cheeks. We thought we wouldn't make it. Grace whispered, he was everywhere. Watching. Always. Ryan knelt beside Ethan, giving a reassuring smile. You're safe. No one's going to hurt you now. As they led the family out of the hollow, Michael spoke quietly to Sarah. It wasn't just debt. Emily's connection with Jake, it triggered something in him. He thought he had to punish us. Sarah frowned. So it was personal? Michael shook his head. Not really. It was a warped sense of justice. He studied us, our routines, our fears. Every mistake, every secret, he used it to manipulate us, trap us. Back at the clearing where the predator had been captured, Sarah watched him being loaded into the police vehicle. He glared at her. This isn't over, he hissed. The plan was bigger than you know. Sarah's jaw tightened. We'll see about that. As the Harper family walked toward safety, Ryan whispered, do you believe him? That it was bigger? Sarah shook her head slowly. Plans like his always have cracks. And we just found them. The rest is up to the law. For a moment, the forest was silent, the shadows retreating as dawn broke over Ravenwood. The Harpers were alive, the predator was caught, but one thing remained clear: secrets could destroy a family faster than anyone realized, and some mysteries ran deeper than they appeared. Ravenwood slowly returned to its quiet routine. The Harper house, once eerily empty, now held the warmth of family laughter and cautious relief. Detective Sarah Mitchell walked through the living room, notebook in hand. Michael Harper approached her, gratitude evident in his tired eyes. Detective, I don't know how to thank you, he said. You saved my family. Sarah smiled faintly. You did most of it yourselves. You stayed calm, followed the clues, and didn't panic. That made all the difference. Emily approached, holding Grace and Ethan's hands. We'll need time, but I think we can heal. Ryan Cole, standing nearby, added, and the man who did this? He's in custody. He'll answer for every move, every threat, every lie. Michael nodded slowly. I can't believe how close we came to losing everything. And all the secrets. I never realized how much they could hurt. Sarah placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Secrets can destroy, yes. But courage, trust, and sticking together, they save lives. You've learned that the hard way. As they spoke, Sarah's phone buzzed with a report from the precinct. The predator had been linked to a string of similar cases in neighboring towns, families disappearing, threats sent, plans meticulously designed. Ryan glanced over her shoulder. Looks like he's not working alone, or at least not the first time he's done this. Sarah sighed, a mix of relief and concern washing over her. Then we'll stay vigilant. Ravenwood is safe, for now. But darkness has a way of creeping back. Outside, the sun broke through the morning fog, casting golden light across the Harper yard. Grace and Ethan ran to the swing set, laughing for the first time in weeks. Emily and Michael watched, holding hands, sharing a quiet moment of triumph. Sarah and Ryan walked back toward their car, the forest behind them now silent, holding its secrets for another day. Think it's really over? Ryan asked. Sarah shook her head, a faint smile on her lips. For this family, yes. But out there, somewhere, plans are always in motion. And we'll be ready. Ravenwood exhaled, a town scarred but not broken, as life slowly returned to the streets and homes. The Harpers survived, the predator was caught, and the lessons of fear, trust, and resilience would linger far longer than the shadows that once haunted them.